Every business is unique.
But the ups and downs we experience as we launch and run our businesses are pretty similar.
We're Harmon Brothers, the team behind Pooping Unicorns and other weird but successful video ads you've probably seen.
We help businesses grow through unforgettable video marketing, and we're no stranger to tricky situations. In fact, we embrace them.
The goal of this podcast is to show how your crappy circumstances could be the golden opportunity that leads to your next success.
You're watching Poop to Gold.
Welcome back to From Poop to Gold. This is Benton Crane, your co-host and the CEO of Harmon Brothers. Today on the show, I have a special guest with me. I have Cody Butler calling in from Australia. Welcome to the show, Cody.
Thank you for having me, guys. I really very much appreciate it.
So Cody is a #1 international best-selling book author and a business consultant living in Australia with his wife and his 3 sons.
Yeah.
And his book is called The 90-Day Marketing Plan. And his business focuses on small to medium-sized businesses and helping them with their marketing. So, with that overview, how did you get into this business, Cody?
That's a great question. So I've always been very entrepreneurial, and I realized at a very young age that if I wanted to have more out of life, I was going to have to go down a slightly different route than the conventional route. If I was going to have more, I was going to have to do more, and that was being a business owner. So after starting multiple businesses with not the greatest success, one of them ending in bankruptcy and another 2 ending in very, very mediocre outcomes, I realized that there was something missing.
We call those our not-for-profit efforts.
That was school for me during my educational process. So I realized finally that the part that was really missing from my business was the marketing part. It was like I was always good at what I did. Like any business I started because I loved it and because I was good at it. I just thought that was enough to make a business work. But at some point, I realized that actually the part that's missing is actually getting into the marketplace. The part that's missing is getting butts on seats, boots through doors. And that part was the marketing part, and that was missing. So that was where I went on an obsessive 20-year quest to learn how to solve that problem.
And in mastering that, then you've now turned your focus to helping others with it.
Absolutely. So it doesn't take long. So once I started to see the success, once I actually started to get some decent marketing practices and understand marketing, I started to see my own business grow. It didn't take long before pretty much every other business owner that I knew started coming out of the woodwork. So people don't like to talk about their problems, really. They put on the veneer and the facade that everything's fine and everything's going great. But when they see that you've solved a problem that they have, then they'll talk to you about those problems. And people started coming to me saying, hey, how did you do that? Or how do you get those people into your business? Or how are you filling those events? Or they're starting to ask those questions. And I started to realize that it wasn't just me that had that problem. It was pretty much every business owner out there, really.
Yeah, every business has marketing as a challenge.
Every business, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not just businesses either. It's everything from a political campaign to a not-for-profit effort to
finding a partner in life. That's a marketing campaign.
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. How would you describe the why of your business?
Where things really turned around for me was as you rightly pointed out, I'm in Australia, but I'm not Australian. My wife's Australian. I'm English. In 2009, her visa came to an end. She was in England. Her visa came to an end. She had to leave the UK. I couldn't get a visa to go to Australia, so we didn't. We wanted to remain together, so we decided to get married, which required a visa of its own. And I was declined. We were declined a marriage visa on the grounds of insufficient income. So that was a real wake-up moment for me. At that point, you're absolutely faced with the consequences of your reality. So up to that point, I was failing at business, but I was lying to myself and telling myself I was winning and I was doing well. But when that visa was declined, I was absolutely forced to deal with the reality of the fact I'm not winning at all. And now, not only was I not winning, but the consequences had become very real to me as well. Getting that handled, so I had a very short period of time, so I had to turn my finances around in a very, very short period of time to reapply for that visa and get that sorted out. So,
and was that application in the UK or Australia?
Yeah, that was in the UK. Yeah.
And did that force you guys to separate for a for a period of time.
Yeah, that forced us to. She had to go back to Australia, and I couldn't follow, and she couldn't come back to the UK. So that forced I think it was a 12-month separation. Yeah.
It went on for a full 12 months.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What's going through you emotionally during those 12 months?
It was an awful situation, obviously. I mean, like, because there was no end to it. There was no like, okay, in 12 months this is going to be over. There's no resolution. The only resolution is to generate enough income to where they say, okay, well, you can do that now. Basically they said you can't support her, and as a country we're not going to support her. So until you can prove that you have sufficient income to where she's not going to be a burden to the state, then the answer is no. So what I did at that point, I actually got a job at a marketing agency. Just out of not because that's what I wanted to do, but that was the best paying job that I could get at the time, and that solved the problem. So while I was at that marketing agency, I actually got a foundation of some basic skills. That was my initial why. That's what really pushed me over the edge. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to develop these skills. I'm going to solve this problem. Whereas before there was no deadline, right, to solve the problem. I was aware of the problem, but there was no deadline. And now it's, I've got 3 boys as well. I've got a family, and providing them a life that I would like to provide for them. That's what really drives me at this point.
So when you overcame that in that moment, did that bring her back to the UK?
Yeah.
And then you've since relocated to Australia?
Yeah. We spent another 5 years in the UK after that. So I think there was two appeals of that decision, and then a new application. And then, so it took a year, then we got the visa that allowed her to come back and get married, and we stayed in the UK for another 5 years, and then we've been in Australia for 5 years subsequently from there.
I see. What went into the decision to relocate to Australia?
It was really, what's going to be best for her. She was pregnant at the time, so she was pregnant with our first son. It's like, what is the better location to raise children? Where are they going to have the better life? Long term, are they going to have a better life in Europe, or are they going to have a better life in Australia? So we decided that Australia was probably the better long term decision.
Got it. Is that experience the poop moment that you would like to share with our listeners, or do you have another one in mind?
Yeah. So look, I mean, I love poop to God. I mean, I would say every master was once a disaster. So, your poop moment is a necessary catalyst for success. This is obviously a business entrepreneurial podcast. I mean, I've had poop moments personally where I've transformed my life personally, where I've transformed my health, where I've transformed my emotional condition, where it's like pretty much my relationships, pretty much every aspect of my life, there's been a poop moment. And it's those poop moments. You're not going to improve till you get to a point where you go, not another day, not another hour, not another minute am I going to live like this. But, I've had it with this. I've had it with being unhealthy. I've had it with being broke. I've had it with being unsuccessful. It's like, I'm done with it. And it's those poop moments that really provide the fuel and the catalyst to leapfrog to the next level, because it doesn't take long. Once you actually make a decision, I mean, this is the big thing. It's like the poop moment forces the decision, and it's those decisions that actually create the results. So with the visa situation, I made $9,000 in 2000. I think it was 2009, might have been 2010, but I made $9,000 in 2009. I made $182,000 in 2010.
That's life-changing.
And then I went on to, do 7 figures. 5 years later, was doing 7 figures. So it's like, well, what changed in that 12-month period? It wasn't, I acquired some new skills, but that was the minimal part of the equation. What changed was that poop moment forced me into a decision, and that decision forced me into action, and that action forced new results.
So even though that, 12-month separation and the humiliation and everything that went with it, in the moment, it's a miserable experience that you wouldn't wish upon an enemy, right? But now you look back at it, and you're probably immensely grateful for having gone through it.
Really, the advice that I would want to give somebody is don't despise your poop moments, because they're there to help you. They're brought to you for a reason. They're coming to you for a reason. It's like the reason you've arrived at that moment is because you've been deficient, inadequate, or neglectful in some area of your life. And that poop moment is merely feedback. It's like the temperature gauge on your car going to red, or the fuel gauge going to empty. It's telling you that something's wrong, and it's giving you an opportunity to take corrective action. So yeah, absolutely. It's like in the moment, it was it was a why me moment. How is this happening to me? Where in retrospect, it's like that was a pivotal point, that my life as it is today could not exist without that having happened.
Now, we're in the middle of the global pandemic, right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of been boom or bust for a lot of businesses, which means there are a ton of entrepreneurs out there who find themselves right in the middle of their real life poop moment that in many instances, by no fault of their own, they're in the middle of a really, really hard time. What advice do you have for people who are going through that?
The first thing I would say is you've got to be agnostic to the opportunity. So if you're really set in your ways, and you're really absolutely determined to continue to do what you've done, even though everything around you tells you that everything is now different, you're not going to succeed. It's like the people that are doing very well are pivoting, they're changing, that they're recognizing very quickly that the situation and adapting to it. It's very interesting. I was talking about it yesterday, but I've got a friend who's a fighter pilot, or he was a fighter pilot. He's retired now. And he was an instructor. He taught other pilots, and he said that they teach that if you're shot down, that the quicker you can accept that you've been shot down, that the greater your chances of survival. If you're in your parachute going down to the ground and you're thinking, how did this happen? What went wrong? What could I have done differently? All irrelevant at that point. The only question, or the only thing you have to do, is accept your situation. And the sooner you can accept it, the quicker you can start making good decisions. And every second that goes by that you're thinking about the past and what went wrong and how you could have done things differently, the chances of your survival are diminishing. Mm-hmm. So what I would say is, like, take that philosophy. It's like, don't try and understand how this happened. Don't try and blame somebody for it. Don't try and figure out what you could have done differently. Accept that this is the situation, and what is your next step? And the next step is probably going to be moving away from the opportunity that you already exploit and moving into a new opportunity. Mm-hmm. There's certainly, as you rightly say, there are boom and there's bust right now. There are people doing very well, and there are people, not going to do so well out of this. The ones that are doing well have let go of their past paradigm, and they're like, okay, what's the landscape, and how can we take advantage of the new landscape? How can we pivot into a new reality?
Yeah, I feel like adaptability, the type of adaptability Absolutely. That you're talking about, for some people that comes naturally, and for other people, it's not just a natural reaction. But regardless of whether or not it feels natural, it's absolutely something that can be learned and can be practiced. I love how you described that analogy of the fighter pilot, because the pandemic turning a business upside down is very, very much yeah. You just got shot down and you're falling from a parachute. And so now it's your decision whether or not you sit and wallow in the grief and try to point fingers and blame and hope that something changes, or you just make the decision to adapt. I love that advice.
And look, I mean, that the thing here is, like, this is nothing new. Like, yeah, the pandemic, maybe that's new, but the situation is not new. There's been cataclysmic shifts in the business world. It happens all the time. Like, at some point, radio came along, and that transformed how business was changed. People come to terms with radio, and then television comes along and transforms everything again. And then a few years later, the internet comes along, and everything is transformed again. It's like these cataclysmic shifts are always happening within the business community, and they spell disaster for one group of people, and they spell massive opportunity for another. The way I describe it to people that I'm working with is, like, right now, the pandemic, let's say, is a level 8 problem for a business owner. Mm-hmm. And most business owners go, well, I want it to be a level 5 problem, or I want it to be a level 6 problem, but that's not going to happen. The pandemic is going to do what it's going to do, and you have no control over what level of a problem it's going to be. But if it's a level 8 problem, then the solution is you become a level 9 business owner. That's the solution. So it's the wrong thing to do to focus on the pandemic and say, okay, well, this is a level 8 problem. The question you need to be asking yourself is, well, if this is a level 8 problem, how do I become a level 9 business owner?
That's right.
And now you've taken the power back. You've placed the power in an area that you have the possibility to actually influence and control, versus just saying, I need the pandemic to change, which you have no control over whatsoever.
Okay, let's imagine you can go back and see yourself as you were starting your entrepreneurial journey. What do you know now that you wish you could tell that version of yourself?
Just sit back and enjoy the journey more. It's looking back, everything happened for a reason. Everything happened at the right time, in the right place, in the right way. And I worried about a lot of stuff that I didn't need to worry about, and I lost a lot of time, worrying when I could have been enjoying myself. I would tell myself just to sit back, enjoy the journey, and trust that everything's going to work out just fine.
Does that mean that you feel like you spent too much time waiting for the enjoyment to come as opposed to just enjoying what was there? Is that what you mean?
Or really just stuff like, I remember being very, when I started out, my first successful business, or really successful business, was a marketing agency. And, I'd lose a big client would leave, and that would cause me all kinds of stress. Or I'd be proposing to a big client and I wouldn't get it. And it's like, I would just think that was the end of the world, right? It's like, or, a key staff member would leave at a key time. And I would think, well, this is just the end of the world. The end of the world is happening now, and caused a great amount of stress and anxiety. But the reality is, you look back and it's like, well, that person going was a blessing. Mm-hmm. That client leaving was neither here nor there. It did not impact myself or the business in any way, shape, or form in reality. So a lot of the things that I worried about, I simply didn't need to worry about. They were problems that never actually came into reality.
Too much time sweating the small stuff.
Too much time, yeah. Don't sweat the small stuff. That'd be a great way of putting it, Benton, yeah.
You're a marketer, and your business is focused on helping other businesses with their marketing. If you had to summarize your marketing philosophy and boil it down to its essence, if you will, how would you describe that philosophy?
It's leave everybody better than you found them. So my goal of coming on this podcast is to leave the listener in a better place than they were when they came into contact, and is to leave your podcast better than it was when I came on it. So if everything you come into contact with, you leave it better than you found it, you can't not succeed if you do that. So, I want to leave everybody better than they find them. So whatever I put out, if I send out an email, I'm like, does this leave the person reading this email in a better place than before they open the email? If I do an interview, my question is, does this interview leave the person in a better place? If I create a product, it's like, does it leave this business in a better place? So if you're obsessed with that, if your obsession is, I want to leave everybody I come into contact with in a better place than I found them, you're going to be magnetic and very attractive. That's true attraction marketing, because when people start to realize, if I come into contact with Cody, I'm going to leave that engagement, whether it be a 20-minute interview or a 2-year relationship or whatever, I'm going to leave them in a better place. Then when word starts to get out, you're going to be very, very magnetic in your attraction, and pretty much everything else is going to take care of itself.
I love that, because it automatically takes you out of your selfish focus of just focusing on me.
Yeah.
And it puts you in a mindset where you're focused on those around you, and you end up practicing the golden rule just by default, because you're thinking. That's right. You're thinking about how to take care of others.
I call it selfish benevolence. I'm selfishly benevolent. And it's like, I think it was Zig Ziglar who said it, I'm pretty sure. If you help enough people get what they want, you can have anything that you want. So it's like, my very selfish motivation is, I want anything that I want to be able to have anything that I can have. And then what's the means to that? It's to help enough people get what they want. So it's selfish benevolence. You become benevolent, but it serves you as well. So both parties are getting served in the equation.
Awesome. Well, where can our listeners stay in touch with you, Cody?
So I'm on all of the standard social media, the usual suspects. You can find me at codybutler.com. The book's available on Amazon. Just search Cody Butler on Amazon, the 90-day marketing plan. And I also have a podcast as well, the Small Business Marketing Made Easy podcast, where I dispense advice as frequently as I can bring myself to do it.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on the show. We really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and experience with us.
Thanks for having me on. It's been great. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
And of course, for our listeners, anyone who is interested in learning about how we do what we do, feel free to check out harmonbrothersuniversity.com so that you can get that training there. And otherwise, just make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one. At Harmon Brothers, we're known for what we call our hero campaigns. These are big nationwide campaigns for brands like Squatty Potty, Poopery, Purple Mattresses, Lumi Deodorant, and many others. What makes these campaigns special is that they've helped scale those businesses by tens of millions of dollars each. Now, companies reach out to us on a regular basis wanting a hero campaign. They want that type of growth, they want that type of branding, and they want that type of awareness. But the simple reality is, most businesses and entrepreneurs aren't yet quite ready for that level of growth. So we've built what we call a hero incubator that is designed to help entrepreneurs and companies prepare for a hero campaign and to be ready for the type of growth that they're looking for. The Hero Incubator starts with a marketing audit. We offer these marketing audits for free, and you can apply for one at harmonbrothers.com/audit.